In the previous class, we have learnt about the geological background and the formation of the Himalayas. In today's class, we are going to learn about the Indo-Gangetic Plains and the Peninsular Plateau, which are the parts of our Indian relief features. First of all, we will know the formation of the Indo-Gangetic Plains. As we have learnt before that, the Himalayas are the main source of the perennial rivers. These Himalayan rivers have continuous flow due to the water which is brought from the glaciers. In those rivers that exist Indian rivers such as Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. These three Himalayan rivers and their tributaries form the northern plain. In the beginning of 20 million years ago, this northern plain was like a shallow basin. Later, it was filled by alluvial soil brought from the Himalayan rivers. Thus, this was resulted the formation of this great northern plains. It is also called as the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Thus, the Indo-Gangetic Plain was formed. Now, let's have a look on the main divisions of the Indo-Gangetic Plains. As we have discussed before that the Himalayan mountains are situated in the north and the Indo-Gangetic plain can be seen under these Himalayan mountains. Means it is situated in between the Himalayas and the Deccan Plateau. The Deccan Plateau lies in the south of Indo-Gangetic plain. This Indo-Gangetic plain broadly consists of three divisions. They are the western part, the central part and the eastern part. The western part was formed by the river Indus and its tributaries, the Jhelum, the Chenab, the Ravi, the Beas and Sutlej flowing from the Himalayas. Most of the Indus River basin is located in Pakistan, leaving minor portion of Punjab and Haryana plains in India. The area between the two rivers is called Doab. In this region, the Doab dominate the fertile land. Let's have a look on the central part of the Indo-Gangetic plain. This central part is known as the Ganga plain. This central part extends from the river Ghaggar to Tista. This central part is mainly spread in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and partly in Haryana, Jharkhand and West Bengal. In this central part, the river Ganga, Yamuna and their tributaries Son, Kosi, etc. drain. Now let's see about the eastern part. This part of the plain exists in the Brahmaputra valley of Assam and the river Brahmaputra is mainly responsible for its formation. As we have discussed about the three main divisions of the Indo-Gangetic plains. The Himalayan rivers, while flowing down, they deposit gravel and pebble sediments in a narrow belt of 8 to 16 kilometers of width found parallel to foothills of Shivaliks. This feature is known as Babar. This Babar is porous in nature. The small rivers and streams flow underground through this Babar and reappear in a lower area. Then it forms a marshy region that is called Terai. So once upon a time, this Terai zone had a thick forest and rich variety of wildlife. However, owing to migration at the time of India's partition, most of this Terai zone has now been cleared and used for agricultural operations. So, in this way, alluvial land was formed towards the south of the this terrace zone. Let us know about the peninsular plateau. Actually, peninsula means it is a land mass which is surrounded by water by three sides. Our Indian plateau is also known as peninsular plateau because it is surrounded by oceans by three sides. Here, Bay of Bengal at eastern side and Indian Ocean at southern side and the Arabian Sea at the western side. Our Indian plateau is mainly composed of old crystalline, hard igneous and metamorphic rock. Large amount of metallic and non-metallic mineral resources also we can found in our Indian plateau. Comparing with the Gangetic plain, this region is very dry. The rivers are not perennial here, so that's why the irrigation for the second crop depends on the deep tube well and the tanks. The Western Ghats lie on the western margin and the Eastern Ghats lie on the eastern margin of our peninsular plateau. The southernmost tip of the plateau is Kanyakumari. The peninsular plateau consists of two broad divisions. The northernmost part is called the Central Highlands. These are also known as Malwa Plateau. And the southernmost part is called as the Deccan Plateau. Malwa Plateau on the western side and the Chota Nagpur Plateau on the eastern side are the main plateaus. The Chota Nagpur Plateau is rich in mineral resources. The portion of peninsular plateau lying to the south of river Narmada, a triangular landmass, is called the Deccan Plateau. Satpura range forms the Deccan Plateau's north edge, while the Mahadev, the Kaimur range, and a portion of Maikal range are eastern edges. The Western Ghats form as a western boundaries, Eastern Ghats form as an eastern boundaries, and Neelagiris form as a southern boundaries to this Deccan Plateau. The Western Ghats extend for 1600 kilometers. Near Gudalur, the Neelagiris join the Western Ghats and they rise to over a height of about 200 meters. The famous hill station Udagamandalam, popularly known as Ooty, is located in Neelagiris. Dodabetta Peak is the highest peak in the Neelagiris. The average height of this peak is 2637 meters. Palani Hills in Tamil Nadu, Annamalai Hills in Kerala, Cardamom Hills are in the Western Ghats. Anaimudi of Annamalai Hills is the highest peak in South India. The average height of this peak is 2695 meters. The Eastern Ghats extend from Mahanadi Valley in the north to Neelagiris in the south. The average height of the Eastern Ghats is 900 meters. These Eastern Ghats are not continuous. The rivers that originate in Western Ghats like Godavari and Krishna cut across the plateau and join the Bay of Bengal. The highest peak in Eastern Ghats is Aromakonda. It's found at Chintapalli in Andhra Pradesh. The average height of this peak is 1680 meters. Nallamalas, Velikondas, Palakondas and Seshachala are some of the hilly tracts of Eastern Ghats. One of the remarkable features of the peninsular plateau is black soils formed due to volcanic activity.